Welcome to the ST Forge, a podcast where we break down the industry's newest TTRPGs, why you should run them, and our thoughts on how they're made.
Welcome back to the Storytellers Forge, a podcast where we talk about anything and everything that we find interesting in the TTRPG space. Today is a very special day because not only do you have me, Pat Edwards, dear listener, you also have Rick Heinz. Rick, say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, it's a both of us episode. And in addition to the both of us, we're going to be reviewing a current ongoing Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign called Sync. And not only are we going to be reviewing it and talking about this crowdfunding campaign, we have one of the creators here with us today, the one and only Mr. Johnny Stanton. Johnny, hello.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course, you are so brave to come onto this podcast.
I know it. You're gonna put my feet to the fire and realize that I don't know what I'm doing, which is what I tell myself every day until I have to knock it out of me.
Yeah, it's okay. You know what? We just bang our heads at the Kickstarter and press our refresh button a whole lot until we hope that it works.
Yeah. Speaking of the refresh button, the first couple minutes of your campaign, do not press the refresh button because the numbers are actually going up actively. The refresh button brings it back down to what it was like a moment ago, and that screwed me up for like a good hour.
I was actually going to ask that, so I'm glad that you mentioned that already.
Yeah.
No, so Sync is your first crowdfunding and a TTRPG publishing experience, right?
Correct. Yeah, I've been invited to do a handful of projects on little Kickstarters here and there, and I've been very thankful because I did not come onto the scene as a writer at all. My whole history is that I was a former NFL football player. I was in the league from 2018 to 2022, on and off, between the Minnesota Vikings and Cleveland Browns. I outed myself as a D&D nerd during that time and got a lot of fans because I realized that there was a lot of crossover between the TTRPG scene and the football fans. I started off as, I think, a novelty of a performer in certain streams, and since then I've developed a passion for writing and in game design. And Sync is my first foray into creating something of my own, especially in the publishing scene. Not only is it mine, but it's also my co-writer Rick Esquivias' first attempt into doing it as well. He and I have been playing games since 2018 together, co-DMing each other's campaigns. And then Sam Rusk, our artist, who is the third part of the creator team, it is her first time within the publishing world of TTRPGs. She is an incredible tattoo artist and also the biggest D&D nerd that I know. She has made a name for herself as a tattoo artist, bringing the worlds of traditional tattoo art and nerdiness D&D art together into one beautiful combination. And the three of us combined are just like chickens with our heads cut off, running around trying to figure out how to best do this thing. And luckily we've got Hit Point Press kind of guiding us along with all this energy.
I was gonna say 3 pretty successful chickens. We'll just, as of the day of us recording this, it'll come out in a couple days after this, but as the day of us recording, there's 22 days left in the campaign, and I'm looking at it right now. You're currently sitting at $206,840 raised, 1,892 backers. Just wonderful. You got to be through the roof right now.
Yes, no, it's incredibly exciting. Honestly, we had no idea what to expect. Obviously, the first day is incredibly exciting, but you have that like worry of like, is this all just going to come crashing down? Is everybody going to refund and cancel their pledges? Is none of that momentum going to continue? We hit 100,000 in the first, I think, 5 or 6 hours, and we hit our goal of 10,000 in the first 8 minutes, I want to say. So all of that, like, objectively is exciting. It's really great news. But then the whole, the work is not done by any means. But I will say the work is a whole lot, as I'm sure you guys know, the work is a whole lot lighter once the campaign starts because all the work happens beforehand. And on my hours in front of my computer, sitting on my butt typing copy onto the Kickstarter page is a whole lot less now that we've actually started the campaign.
it's a whole process, and
Yeah.
we'll get into actually we're going to do the same thing that we normally do in our podcast reviews. We're going to go through this whole thing, and we actually get to have Johnny like, hey, what was your thought behind this, which is kind of
Mhm.
freaking cool. But before we do that, we have the one opportunity here of Johnny. What the hell is Sync?
Sync is we're calling it the ultimate guide to tattoos and pirates in 5th edition D&D. Obviously, we can only use the word D&D so much within creating this campaign and marketing it, but I get to talk about it on here. We love Dungeons and Dragons, we love 5th edition, we love a whole lot of different TTRPGs, but we wanted to be able to have this as our first passion within this and within the scene, be what drove our first project. Sync came about because I got to meet Sam Rusk, our artist, tattoo artist, last year at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, where I got a Displacer Beast tattooed onto my thigh in her American traditional tattoo style, kind of a cool like panther, traditional panther that you would get, but it's got the tentacles and the 6 arms. So we hung around, walked around San Diego Comic-Con, walked around the Gaslamp District a bunch, and we were just getting to know each other. And I had assumed that Sam had worked on projects before. I know she's done some work with Critical Role, and I said, "Have you ever done it, like any been an artist for a book?" And she says, "No, we've published our own little comic once, but that wasn't anything big. So no, I've never done anything in the scene." And my gears are going, and I asked her. Actually, I think this was after we hung out. I asked her the next day or after the weekend was over, if you could create a book, a D&D book of your own, using your own art style, what would like the subject matter be? What would the theming be? And she said, well, traditional tattoos are very easily sailor tattoos. So something like a pirate adventure would be very cool. But I'm a classic nerd of wanting to do dungeon crawlers. So I think a dungeon crawler would be a very cool thing to do as well, kind of getting into the gritty, dungeon nature of it. And I figured, why not both? That's not like a genre that cannot be combined.
Exactly.
So Sam recounts this exact interaction as feeling like, okay, it was like a question that Johnny was asking me, like, oh, what's your favorite color kind of situation. And then a week later, I came back to her saying, hey, so I talked to Rick. We've been able to divide, like, we've created this setting, we've created these subclasses and stuff. When can you start working on it? So apparently Sam did not go into this thinking that it was going to be a whole project, and we kind of ambushed her with it. But it's been incredible ever since then. It started off as its own one shot that Rick, you were telling me you got to pick up, and we talked to both of you or this spring, I think it was, in talking about actually getting the free RPG Day one shot Treasures of Deep Grotto created, and that's what was our first creation together. We created it back in like September, October, until I thought, we think this is really cool. This is a really cool adventure that we have been running for our friends that we're really proud of. We've developed subclasses. We've developed this big bad Igathul that, it's not great for podcasts, but I've got the little mini right here that is so cool. Like a Cthulhu-esque fiendish...
rising out of the waves.
Rising out of the waves. It's super cool, really creepy, and we've developed all of this. And I didn't want it to be just limited to a one shot. I didn't want it to be limited to something that was so small in scale. Where I knew there was an opportunity to call on some of the connections that I had built. So that's when I figured, okay, I loved going to PAX Unplugged back in 2020. What was it? 2022. Was the first time I got to go to PAX Unplugged. It was my first time going to an actual tabletop gaming convention. And I thought, well, why not go to it again? But this time with the single-minded focus of trying to see who we could partner with to create the Treasures of Deep Grotto as an expanded book. And to just see what people thought about it in the first place. So Rick is an incredible, not only writer and dungeon master, he's also a great graphic designer. And he put together all of this artwork and subclasses and kind of just made this taste tester, this sample of what the Treasures of Deep Grotto was. And we brought it to about, I think, 10 or 15 meetings over that course of that weekend that I just set up by cold emailing a whole bunch of publishers, being able to rely on some of the connections I had already made through, just influencer, posts and sponsorships and stuff. And the first meeting we had was with Rico Evangelo over at Hit Point Press, the CEO of Hit Point Press. And that was over lunch. We got to show him the sample. He loved it. he said, if you guys want to do something about this, let us know, and we will continue. Let's talk over the weekend, because this is something that we're definitely interested in. And then we got to we did not think that we were going to be in this situation. We got to compare every meeting that we had over the rest of the weekend to Hit Point Press. Hit Point Press, in our mind, it was the goal that we could hopefully shoot for.
Yeah, I kind of want to back into some of this, because now we're getting into the crunchy.
Just ramble about this. This is
yes.
Please stop me.
The funny thing is like we started with this. One, you have a tattoo artist on your project. Now you have no excuse but to join me in my trend of every time you publish a book, you get a new tattoo.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And so keep with that. Now, two, as authors, when we're asked about like how to pitch our book and like what is your book about, we quickly have to learn you got like 6 seconds.
Yeah, and I did not do that in 6 seconds. I failed that mission.
So don't worry, work in progress. But the cool thing is that this book is an RPG about seas, magic tattoos, an actual dungeon crawl, and gorgeous like classic sailor artwork and like tattoos. The magic tattoo aspect as a magic item is like one of the most requested things that I always hear from a lot of players. So like intrinsically, your book is offering something that is of extremely wide appeal, and plus, who doesn't like pirates and rum? But now you as authors and creators took your project and you actually went to seek publication support. And you went and I know that like at one point, hey, we talked to you guys. Hit Point Press did. You probably had a bunch of different pitches to find the best opportunity for what you were looking for. Yeah. And when you guys agreed on something, this is a very important step that I think a lot of independent creators could really use always current feedback on. How much did you have done? Was it just the sample pack? Did you we
had the one shot done. We had the one shot and the subclasses created. And to be honest, that's a lot of what we have done at this point, because we thought that this year was going to be a lot about building the book, but when it really became building the Kickstarter and marketing it and advertising it and just wearing all these different hats, that we haven't had the opportunity to do as much work on this book as we want to. So that's why we have a schedule that looks like it does. But when people back a Kickstarter, they understand that it's not a fully done project.
And your production timelines make total sense on this, and just so you guys for listening, they started off this crowdfunding campaign with a goal of 10,000, which is arguably critically low, actually, from a base goal to what would be needed to make a print run for a 200-page plus like special edition hardcover. So that was kind of a risk on this part.
Yeah, I mean, considering what we had already paid for the marketing aspect of it, and this is getting really into the weeds, and kind of seeing how the sausage is made. $10,000. If we had just made $11,000, that would have been a horrible failure based on like the amount of money that we've spent and everything. And I'm not saying by any means is like. Would we have not been very ecstatic to be forced into making this book? But yeah, it would have meant that a lot of the work that we had did months and months and months, literally a full-time job of what you're creating just for the hope that this campaign does well, would have been for nothing, or would have been for just a lot smaller of a return to be able to make what we want to make. The not cut any corners, not have to pull back on any of the stuff that we want to do. We want to expand what we want to do. The $10,000 reward in the first place was placed so that we could try to build momentum and help people see like, oh my gosh, it has raised over 2,000% of what we had hoped for.
Yeah. And you get you get your,
exact
goal hit 6 hours badge, or, or first day hitting funding goal badge. And that helps with, just searchability. On the site. Mm-hmm.
Then you have the hours of anxiety that come when you're sitting in that dead threshold where you need to hit real different numbers on the back end.
That's something we like to talk about, though. Is not if we're reviewing we're checking out a crowdfunding, it looks interesting, and we'll see what the goal is. and either on air or off air, be like, so what do you think the real number is? What do you think? What do you think the number where they're not taking a bath on is behind the scenes?
And every project does it. Like it's very rare to see a project that is a lot higher than the $10,000 to $20,000 mark. Especially in the TTRPG scene.
It depends entirely on the risk and how much financial capital the publisher behind you has, which actually is the next one. This project looks up there because it's first created. It's Sync. It's your guys' name. It's your own little thing. So you're actually building your own little LLC, tent host, and your creative brand,
which is called Crimson Herald. For those that want to look you up, right? Yes, that's.
Yes. No. The fact that we have multiple parties so invested in the project, especially Hit Point Press putting the kind of financial backing that they have put forward, has been so critical to our success. We would not have been able to reach, a quarter of the amount of people that Hit Point Press was able to reach, not only through advertising, but through their own existing audience. You talked about the fact that we have, 0 created projects as Sync as a brand, and Sync as a brand is that party partnership without the headline banner of Hit Point Press. And we knew that we were, fighting uphill to be able to work against that, but we still have the advantages that Hit Point Press does bring to the table, which, like I said, has been so critical to our success.
And that takes knowing that takes a lot of like the hey, you're not sure, you've never heard of Sync, you're not sure if they're going to be able to deliver. Yes. That kind of eliminates some of the things, because I mean, even at Gen Con, Ricardo over at Hit Point Press was handing out and being like, no, check out Sync, check this thing out, right? He was pounding.
He's been such an incredible cheerleader and mentor for us. It's been crazy.
So inside the actual crowdfunding, you guys have a bunch of stuff that you're doing. And beyond the book with the tattoos, and you have this great line, fans for Pirates of the Caribbean, One Piece, and Black Sails. All anybody really kind of needs to know, it's that great likeness. Oh, hey, you've made a book for me, Warlocks plus piracy. And that was how it was pitched to me at Gen Con, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, and then tattoos.
Yeah, and then tattoos, right? I'm like, I am all of these things. But you have in this one section, here's a spot that I want to focus on, because one thing that I see that I was like, okay, how much have you guys played around with all of your add-ons? Because you guys have a metric amount of accessories. You guys have individual bandanas. You have the coins of Caldereach. You have signed book plates. You have art. You have minis. You have these really badass minis. You have little art print cards. You have dice. You have liquid core dice. You have more dice, dice bundles, bags of holding pouches. You have plushies. You have ship wheel spinny token things, and a jigsaw puzzle. And wait, I'm not done yet. This keeps going. Black Sands trading like banners, map packs, coloring books, time wall art, mugs, candles, temporary tattoo sheets. Yes.
I need that. I need it in my life.
Alcoholic drinks. And then Elderwood box sets and that is a lot of physical accessories that you guys are going to have to manufacture and produce.
Yep. We know that we're writing a pretty large check, and we feel very, very confident about bringing it all together. In creating this catalog of items that all this is going to come with. We knew that it was going to be at some point there is diminishing returns in adding all this stuff. We understand that. We know that the majority, the strong 99% of majority of people who are going to back this campaign or consider backing this campaign are not going to consider the $750 Igathul's Soul Horde bundle that includes, a stained glass version of one of the pieces of art from the book. We know that, but there are people who are yes, I want everything that I could possibly have with this because this is my thing. This is exactly what I have been looking for. So I got to a point where we were on a group thread, a group Discord channel with the four of us creators, just talking about what what would we enjoy as a creator of this project? What do we think is doable? What has worked in the past? We wouldn't have ever thought about a jigsaw puzzle if Rico hadn't said that it was very successful for them in the Floral Dragons book, the Guide to Floral Dragons. Rico also at one point said, "Oh, I've been just messing around with creating these stained glass art pieces that I really like. Maybe we could do that with some of Sam's art because it translates really well to traditional tattoo art." The Crafty Gamer, that company has a great connection, great relationship with Hit Point Press. And we wanted to be able to work with them, so we have a candle that's going to be offered. We're calling it Idle Mug because we don't want to be appropriating like the Islander culture and calling it tiki. But the Idle Mug is something that I am very proud that I got to think about because I'm like this just works so well in the vibe and having that's what I want. I want a cool red idle mug that I can just have drinks out of and stuff. So a lot of it's just like, what do we think is cool? What do we think will sell? What can we make for a reasonable price? And what can we package together to create these big bundles and tiers?
One thing that it does probably do very well because at this point you guys have made it, right? You actually have 17 people that are interested into the Horde bundle. But what it's going to do for you guys, as like starting off your brand, is when you go to conventions, you actually have things on your table that are more than just your book as well.
Right. And
that is it. I definitely would look at it and be like, that's a lot of risky stuff to throw up there at the start, because if you kind of end up in that middle tier and people are picking these add-ons, it can exponentially go bad for a company.
Especially since Johnny's personally making and shipping.
It's true. Every single one, I'm kissing each of them on the top of the box like a forehead.
But there's some really, really freaking innovative add-ons that I've never really seen around before, for some of this stuff, like the stained glass, right? That's neat. Jigsaw puzzles, that's like, I know people that would flip about that. And you guys also are able to do this with the 2024 compatible rules, which means all of your warlocks will not be getting their patron packs at level 1.
It's the well, the warlock is actually not one of our subclasses that we have available right now. It is on our stretch goal of making a warlock. It's absolutely within the bounds of this book. The subclasses that we've made are ranger, bard, fighter, and wizard subclasses. But we wanted to make sure that we were at the very least keeping up with the movement of the 5e rule set. We are very aware that people are going to be playing a majority 5e for the foreseeable future, for however long. But we also know that there are people who are very interested in playing with the 5e plus, is what Hit Point Press is calling it, 2024 5e rule set. So we wanted to make sure that there's only so much that does change. The writing itself, the flavor is not going to change at all. It's going to be stat blocks. It's going to be subclass features. So that was such a doable stretch goal that we wanted to make sure we included. So that's why it was the first stretch goal available.
The next thing is that we get to pop down and check out is your fulfillment timeline. Kickstarter is now, and then it's estimated March of 2026 for fulfillment, which means I want to personally congratulate you and your team for successfully predicting what it will actually take, and you might even be able to get your stuff to backers early if you're lucky, or it might go late, but that is a realistic timeline. You have this little chart that's like writing and art and design and proofing and manufacturing and freight.
That's all Rico. That's Rico's, walking us through the timeline, because again, this is not something that we've done before, but we would not have been able to do any of it without Rico and Hit Point Press.
But so when you sat down as like authors and creators for this, and you hear the timeline of what it actually takes to make this stuff, did you at first go, oh wow, that's really far out, that's like 2 years out?
Yeah, and looking at it as like objectively, it's sync. When we were talking to everybody at PAX Unplugged, we had this one shot. I don't think that necessarily we were thinking, okay, this is the next 3 years of our life. I think we would have been incredibly happy to know that. And now it's a realistic thing, is that we're going to be working on this for the next 2 years or more.
Oh, and it's gonna get more fun.
Yeah, we can relate to that. Yeah, so you're talking to two people who started in this industry as novelists and are still authors and novelists, and we thought we were going to write one tiny little thing in the D&D space as like a lark, and now it's, I think, how both of us are most known is TTRPG stuff, and now we're have our own business too. And
the worst part is you're going to get done with your book, and it's going to be in layout, and it's going to be off to the presses, and you're going to be like, I have this really cool idea for another thing that I want to make, and you're just going to have to start writing it because you can't put it in the book.
No, that's already happening.
Yeah, like, I love it. So, okay. Now, since we're getting near the sort of end of this quick review of Sync, I want to give Pat some time to ask a quick question as well, and let you tell us some like cool secrets about things that you're excited for in it. But there's one thing on this crowdfunding tier that makes this Kickstarter truly stand out as something I've never seen before in all of my years at Geek and Sundry, covering Kickstarters, everything that are out there. You actually have the option to go get a tattoo from the artist of Sync as a crowdfunding tier. And that is something I haven't seen on anything. There's only 13 slots of them available. 4 of them have already picked. But even just the reason to go out and get a tattoo from Sam Rusk, and her art is absolutely amazing. It's up there, but it's so cool that you got to put that in, and I love, like, that's chef's kiss. That's my last nerd out on this thing.
It's incredibly cool to be able to have Sam's actual day job be a part of this. You know, normally Sam just schedules her tattoo sessions, you know, for months ahead of time and stuff. Whereas this is like, okay, this is going to be something that is going to take a certain amount of priority because this has been prepaid and has been, promotes the Kickstarter and everything. And yeah, she has to a greater extent the feeling that Rick and I have, because we have one tier below that is the playing a Sync game run by the creators, and that's and only 2 people have backed that. And it's very cool to be like, yeah, it's not a physical thing that you're gonna get. For the tattoo, it's a little bit different. That's definitely permanent, but it's an experience that some people absolutely cherish and value, and to be able to offer that is incredibly cool, because that's not something that honestly we would have thought about. That was again a Ricardo and Evangelo idea that we decided to go with, and obviously helped us out a lot.
All right, Pat, you got any?
About that tier, I was okay because it says a 4-hour tattoo session. Now I've been eyeing this, but I'm someone who does small tattoos, like half hour or less. I was like, Rick doesn't even know I was going to ask. I was like, what if Rick and I went in together and it was 2 tiny tattoos that took less than 4 hours?
So I guarantee,
and he doesn't even know I was going to ask.
I guarantee that Sam would be more than happy to split it up amongst different tattoo pieces. Because if you want, my tattoos took anywhere between 2 hours to 2.5 hours, and they're about yay big, probably 6 to 8 inches by 3 to 4 inches. A 4-hour tattoo is a good size tattoo if that's your only piece that you're getting. But I'm sure that you can split it up between, around. I'm sure there's more to the setup and everything, but 2-hour, two 2-hour tattoos if you want 2 pieces of that size or so. If you want a bunch of little flash pieces.
If mine took 2 hours, it'd be the biggest one I've got. I have 2 tattoos, and combined, I think we're just barely under.
I got my most recent tattoo on my honeymoon in Italy this summer. It was the last night of our honeymoon. We had planned it out. It was my wife Maddie was going to get her first tattoo. It was going to be my 4th, I think. And it was, I found a traditional tattoo artist within the same tattoo parlor as her little micro-realism tattoo, and she got done with hers in 20 minutes, and I was on that thing, on that tattoo bench for 2.5 hours. So she got to go get food and gelato while I'm still gritting my teeth under the needle.
that I want.
My last tattoo was 3 5-hour sessions. So,
oh my gosh.
But that's for a future thing. But clearly, Pat, I think that answers the question of, would you back this Kickstarter? Because now apparently I'm getting signed up for it. In the regards of,
Yeah, I'm
We're
backing
getting
this
tattoos
Kickstarter.
now?
It's just a question of what tier. Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Like-
guys. I appreciate it.
Oh no, I as well am gonna back just because the actual content of the book. One, there's the team and the people behind it that I always love supporting, but also just the value of what you're getting and some of the accessories are incredibly unique. I think that you don't see a lot of this stuff on other TTRPG crowdfunding campaigns, and so I think that brings a lot of value to any tabletop game, no matter what setting or type you're playing, because you'll always be able to use magic tattoos and new custom swashbuckling classes and things like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm literally right now about to wrap up the season 1 of a pirate themed campaign. I love this stuff, and I mean, I could absolutely see my characters needing to venture outside my region, the wayward shores, and visit the call to reach sea. I don't want. Oh shoot! I'll say this off mic. They're gonna because I don't want to spoil what's coming for them, but they're gonna have to go.
Okay, there you go.
Pretty soon.
We'll get you some of the secrets so you can start running on the Call to Reach Sea earlier than everybody else.
and it's official. I'm done and backed. So
hell yeah! Thank you so much.
Well, we're still going to
talk about the thing.
Okay?
That may go up. That may go up, and I'll shop for add-ons later.
The other question, and because Sam obviously really well at this point, will Sam be offended if I don't want color? If I just want a black? I know Sam's coloring is gorgeous.
It is
absolutely gorgeous. I'm going for kind of an all minimalist black.
We should just have Sam on the podcast, and you could ask all of the questions.
We should
show
we'll
up on the podcast. I can try to make that happen.
Yes, because that's a whole other thing that we get to talk about, the art side of things. And
I've talked to Sam about this, and Sam has a incredible social media following because she has really cornered the market on the nerdy traditional tattoo art. And I've asked her about, do you only do traditional style? Do you only do nerdy tattoos? And they say, I do tattoos across the board. I do a ton of different styles. I do black and white. I do regular traditional, not nerdy. It's just the stuff that she's building her brand over is the nerdy traditional style. So she's incredibly smart about the way she's doing it, and we're just getting to reap the benefits off of it with Sync. And but yes, I guarantee that Sam would be willing to do a black and white traditional piece or black and white realism or whatever. Sam has their specialties, and I like to take advantage of each artist's specialty. But if you want to just have the experience of getting a Sync tattoo from Sam, we can absolutely make that happen.
And Pat's
yes.
the brains are spinning. So Johnny, to end things up and wrap something up, I'm gonna ask you a question that I don't get to ask that many other people because we usually don't do the review process with the creator actually on here. Cool. Here's a question: when your Kickstarter launched, did you go back your own Kickstarter?
I didn't know that was a thing. Can I do that? I guess I can. I have not backed it. I didn't know that was a tradition for people to do. I will now.
Yeah, the reason why I do it is that's the one copy that I keep for myself, and then I make everybody else who worked on the project all autograph it.
Amazing. We that is one thing that we decided to do over Gen Con, and I apologize that I didn't get to see you and ask for your signature on our dummy copy. We got a dummy copy of the book to be able to, for promotional reasons, like it's completely empty on the inside. So I just started getting people to start signing it like a yearbook. That was Haas. What's Haas's?
I know Haas. I know Haas.
Yeah, you know Haas. Everybody knows Haas. Haas was doing that with his player's handbook because all the creators got their player's handbook.
Yep, I signed. Yes,
but we started doing that with our dummy copy of our book, and we got it signed by Marisha and Taliesin over at Critical Role when we filmed with them.
That's
the other thing. Back at a decent higher tier, but sometimes maybe give it away as a gift.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I should do that or something.
And then what is one secret in the writing side of the book of what you're doing that you are super excited for players or storytellers to get their hands on?
Nobody knows the higher levels of like the features for the subclasses, besides a handful of like the influencers that we shared or people that we played with. The two subclasses that we're the most proud of and the ones that we are really promoting are the Mistbreaker Ranger, which is based on like a fisherman, and the Spellskin Wizard, which is a tattoo artist wizard. But the ones that aren't getting as much attention are the Buccaneer Fighter and the College of Tidesong Bard. And one of my favorite abilities that we gave to the fighter was basically a simulated version of the bloodied condition that a monster might have. You get a ton more abilities when your Buccaneer is bloodied. When they're below half hit points, they just go into this like whirling dervish, because the whole idea for the Buccaneer is being able to use a melee weapon in one hand and a ranged weapon in the other, and really just do a ton of attacks. Some of them might be at disadvantage if you don't have crossbow expert. But when you're at the capstone for the subclass for the Buccaneer is to do like even more damage, even more attacks when they are below half their hit points, to really encourage them to get right in the neck of battle and take a bunch of hits to help out the rest of their party, but just do a bunch of chaos and damage on there.
I'm never gonna play another class.
This explains why they all have eye patches and wooden legs after a few adventures.
It's true.
Johnny, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
For those listening, go check out Sync.
Yes.
All the links in the show notes, all the tags, everything will be there.
SyncRPG.com. Go check it out.
And Yar.
No, the amount of pirate voice I've had to do for this campaign.
Okay, I'll walk us out of here. I'll walk us out. Johnny, before we sign off, do you have anything else you want to say? Or
no, just a big old thank you to you guys, and a big thank you to my co-creators Sam Rusk and Rick Esquivias and Hit Point Press. Go check out syncrpg.com. That's Sync SINK, as in like a ship sinking, or S plus ink. Because that was the whole idea about naming this thing, was the double entendre there. So SINKRPG.com.
This has been the Storytellers Forge. Now, go forth, tell stories, build worlds, slay monsters. Bye.